Richard Skipper celebrates. Every show is a celebration. Each show, Richard delivers the artists you love, showcasing what makes them unique. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to Richard Skipper Celebrates. I was just looking at all of those photographs in my opening promo, and I realized that my hair wasn't completely white at that time. This has all happened in the last 24 hours. Take a deep collective sigh, everybody. We're going to get through all this. It's a crazy world we're living in now. Speaking of crazy world, it's been 313 days since our theaters shut down. But as I always say, in addition to the ghost lights that are still burning brightly, there's a bright light burning in each and every artist in the New York City theater scene and beyond, around the world. Community theaters, regional theaters, stock theaters. We will be back on the boards sooner rather than later. I am very excited about today's show because I'm going to be celebrating an incredible artist, Sally Wilfert. She's done Broadway, she's done touring. She has a new CD out, which we are going to talk about, that came out in the last few months. Just when did the CD get released, Sally?
Digitally, December 25th, and then now physically, currently.
But you've done almost every aspect of show business. I don't know if you've done tightrope walking or stilt walking or anything like that, but looking at your resume, which is absolutely amazing, you've done so much. Before we delve into that, however, I do want us to bring us to where we are now. We are still in the midst of a pandemic, and I want to know how you're doing really in the midst of this crazy world we find ourselves in.
I have no other words other than I'm hanging in, and I feel like I've remained as creative as possible, which is key for me. And also I've been able to get kind of quiet. So I feel like that's been a nice mix of what I needed in a weird way.
I like hearing that because I think of this time as a pause. It's a pause for us to take a collective deep breath together, concentrate on those things that we've had, what we do have, and the things that are important to us as we move forward. And as I did mention, today marks, I can't believe it, 313 days since the theaters shut down. What did your calendar look like on March 11th of last year?
Yeah, when you said 314 days, I just got gobsmacked for just a second when you said that. I literally was like, oh,
I know.
Deep in my belly for just a second. I just sort of went, ooh, gosh. So what my day was like on March 11th was I was in rehearsals for a new off-Broadway musical called Trevor that Mark Bruni was directing and Julianne Wick-Davis and Dan Collins wrote. Beautiful show. And so I was literally riding the subway back and forth in rehearsal to Midtown to rehearse. And I remember around about the 11th, I think we were all sort of starting to get tense. You could feel the tension was sort of building as to, because at that time there were no masks. We were just all singing Happy Birthday Washington and trying to, wear gloves to not touch the poles on the subway. And so, it was a productive time, but there was something going on.
Were you actually in rehearsal when you heard that the shows were going to close? I mean, were you physically in a rehearsal space?
Yeah. I remember when they announced Broadway was closing, we were in rehearsal, and then off-Broadway rehearsed for I think 4 more days. I think we went until either the 14th or 15th. I think, yeah. So yeah, we kept going.
And I've been looking over some of the articles that came out of that time. I mean, everybody thought that we would be back on the boards in 4 weeks.
No doubt. Absolutely. See you in a bit, Who would have thought?
Well, I always like to begin these interviews. We're going to go way back, and we're going to really celebrate your entire career. But I want to go back to the 5-year-old Sally Wilfert, because I always think that 5-year-old self is the authentic self. That's before school starts and before you have peer pressure and all of the things that are surrounding you. And you told me that you're from Cincinnati, and I just interviewed Ron Bomer last week.
I know.
Yes. He's also from Cincinnati. And I would say that a huge percentage of the people that I interview on this platform are from Cincinnati.
Wow, really?
Yes. So what's in the water? Where does it all come from?
I think boredom. No, I don't know. My parents were raised in Cincinnati, and so I'm not sure exactly where. Do you know? It's so interesting. I think at least the time when I grew up in Cincinnati, I think there was such. And I grew up, and my parents moved us out of the suburbs way to the country and to a town called New Richmond, Ohio. So literally closest neighbor was, I don't know, half a mile away. And
was that good or bad?
Well, I didn't know anything different. I just thought everyone walks to school. Why, I lived literally through the woods to the school, and I would be in elementary school, and somebody's like, "Whose horses are out there?" And I'm like, "Oh God, it's ours." And so, they just, go to, the principal's office, say, "Mom, the horse is up here at the school." Yeah, but I think that there was, what I was getting at was that there was, you didn't have to choose between sports and theater, or sports and music. You were thrown into everything, and so I think that there was never any stigma about if you were in sports that you would also be in the arts or in theater or dance. I mean, I remember I took dance lessons with a kid who was equally as much a baseball player as he was a tap dancer. And I don't know, there was just something about that part of the world, and whether it was that time or whether just in Cincinnati, that I think that schools, there was a rich embrace of all of those things.
And what do your parents do?
My dad was an electrical contractor. He owned his own it was a very small electrical business. And then my mom was a housewife and took care of her 3 girls and had many jobs through the years, but she would always quit. We make fun of her to this day. No, I didn't like how they ran the place, so I quit. And she just, she just loved being around us. And, she was always on committees and doing many things, but she really was a great mom.
And where did you fit in as far as your sisters are concerned?
I'm in the middle.
Okay.
My older sister is 3 years above, and the younger one is 1.5 years beneath me.
And are they in the business as well?
No, not at all. No. And everyone is still in Cincinnati. My older sister she works for a company. She's been there for many years. It does like industrial design, but she's now in the sales division. But she's an artist, but she was more of a visual artist. And then my younger sister is a dental hygienist, but she was a flute player for our whole lives too. Wow. So we all kind of had arts growing up, and then we all just went in different directions with it. But yeah.
Arts and education is something that's very important to me. Were you exposed to the arts in school? Did you have a great arts program?
We had great teachers. Like, we had one of those schools that we had a great choral director who loved to put on musicals. We had a great theater director, and she just loved to get everybody involved. And so they would kind of cobble together. We had a beautiful theater as well. And so you just, if you were able to work either backstage or on stage, they would encourage you to get involved in some way. And yeah, so you just had people who were passionate. The drama teacher was also, I think she was either a math or history teacher. I can't remember what she did, but she had many hats at the school, but she happened to have a passion for theater. Yeah. And those are the people that, as far as like my high school years, they really, really shaped who I was and embraced that they saw something in me. They thought, oh, you know what, this, especially my choral director, Mr. Kick, he was definitely like my first mentor.
But what was your exposure to theater or entertainment growing up? Was it television? Was it movies? Was it seeing live shows? Where did it begin for you?
I think really early on, as far as music goes, it was in our household at a very early age. My dad, he comes from a family that they're all amateur musicians, but there was loads of music in our house. Dad plays trumpet and guitar, and he has a great voice. And my mom played a little bit of piano, and she took dance lessons her whole life, but she never went anywhere, but she had a passion for it. They love to this day. They go listen, well, not now, but they are always going out and listening to bands or live music. That's just their passion was music. And then my grandmother, my dad's mother, played the piano. And then my uncle was an amazing jazz pianist, my dad's older brother, and then his younger brother played the guitar. And so we all got involved. And so Christmases it was just a very musical Christmas all the time. And my cousin Sandy played the piano and I played the piano, and we would all sing or lead people in, singing carols and all of that. So my very, very formative years, if we go back to 5 years old, there was a lot of music happening in my family. So we were taken to live shows. What's
the first live show that you remember seeing?
I think there was touring companies that would go through. Honestly, it wasn't a theater show, but I remember that I went to go see, I think it was Arthur Fiedler was a conductor. And he was conducting like maybe a symphony or something. And my mom, I think, took us to see, and we would go see the Nutcracker, and we would
the Cincinnati Pops. Okay.
Yeah. But the first stage production that I really remember going to see, that it kind of like cracked things open for me, was a chorus line. It was a tour of a chorus line. And I remember I thought, and I saved my money and I bought the score to a chorus line. And I thought, I'm going to play every note of this. And then I forced my mentor, Mr. Kick, we were going to make an entire concert of a chorus line.
Yeah.
I was going to play, but I was also going to sing at the ballet. I was going to be Maggie. And I just was determined to, I think they were like, oh God.
Isn't it funny? I'm older than you are, but I remember when the album first came out, and my next door neighbor, she always got all the new cast albums of everything. And she came home one day and she said, you've got to come over and listen to a chorus line. I grew up in South Carolina, so I was as far removed from theater as you could possibly be.
Yeah.
And we sat down, and all of a sudden, the profanity started, and she jumped up and she turned the album off. She said, don't ever tell your parents that I played this for you.
Oh my gosh.
But I was hooked hearing that music for the first time.
Yeah. And I think that, imagination as a young kid, especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere, I built on imagination. And the only neighbor I had, they had 3 daughters as well. And we were sort of all similar in age. And I just remember I would write these shows, and I would write shows where I would say, we're going to play Little House on the Prairie. I would, give everyone lines, and oh gosh, my older sister laughs about it to this day. She's like, dear God, she said, I hated being Mary. But we had a barn, and I would fling open the hayloft, and I would, I don't know, whatever lines I was saying, but I made everyone be a part of these plays that I would write and create. So,
there's this collective consciousness, I think, that happens with a lot of us that come through that.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing. I put on shows in school.
Right.
I had a little tape recorder. I taped things off of TV before we had YouTube and all the other things. And then I would learn these lines from hearing what I had heard on television the night before. And then I would get all my friends to act out as well. But what was that moment for you, Sally, when you said, this is it? Was it a chorus line? Was this where you said, I have to live this life?
I think a chorus line was definitely in there. And there was also this moment, because I was, like I said, I played the piano for a lot of my earlier years, and I really seriously thought that was where I was going to take my talents and expand on those, whatever that meant. I didn't really know. But then I discovered I would sing in chorus and stuff like this, but oftentimes I was the accompanist for the choral group because I was the best piano player. And so I remember I started discovering there was some voice, but I didn't want anyone to hear it. And oftentimes, like say it was Friday night and my sister was a cheerleader, my little sister would be out of the house, my parents would be out of the house, and it was my time to be alone. And I started playing and singing for myself. And I thought, oh, that is the most beautiful sound I've ever heard.
Is that where the song comes from? I was listening to the recording.
I love my voice.
Yes. Is that where that came from?
Wilfert thinks it's the most hysterical story he's ever heard, and he wrote that for me.
Oh my God. I wanted to play it today. I wanted to find a copy that didn't have the Barrington stage logo.
On it. Oh, shoot.
But I want to tell you, I said here, everybody go to YouTube and look this up because I laughed my tookus off listening to you sing this song, and it was just the funniest story.
I used to cry.
And thank you for writing the song.
I used to cry and sing and cry and sing. And one of my first solo acts in the city, I would tell that story about I would get really quiet and sing so many nights. I'd sit and I was like, and you, and I would just start crying because I was like, I'm so good. And so around that time, yes, I discovered.
Who was Deb Cornett Schubert? I have to ask because she's
Debbie?
Yes.
What's she saying?
You light up my life.
She knows the story. No, we
right.
She knows me from home. Yeah. Hi, Deb.
Yes. Hi, Deb. Thanks for joining us. But the song is so hysterically funny, and it's great that it's your song. So it is based on reality. But what was it? I mean, you grew up in a musical household. Mm-hmm. What was it that made you embarrassed or didn't want everyone to hear this voice? Because you have a phenomenal voice.
I just thought at the time I didn't know if I could express that in front of everybody. I was so private. And then once I started getting the courage, then forget it. All the door came off the hinges. And my poor older sister, she still talks about that. I would make, before she was able to go out on a date, I would make them sit and listen to me sing.
Good for you. That was the deciding factor, I'm sure.
I mean, what's not to love? I mean, oh gosh, it's so funny. But yeah, I think it was just a matter of, singing to me is so connected to my heart and to my soul. And I thought if someone would criticize or in any way, or it was just mine at the time. And I was afraid to let it out. But then once I did, then I realized I could touch people with it. I could stab people in the heart.
Beyond the family, when was the first time that others heard your voice? Was it in school?
Yeah.
And what was the first role that you auditioned for that was a singing role for you?
I think it was a singing role. We did Oklahoma, so I think I was like in the chorus of that. But we did A King and I, and I played Anna in The King and I, and that was like a huge, huge thing. I thought, this is what I want to do with my life. This is exactly what I want to do. Mm-hmm.
And so you went through high school. Did you stay in Cincinnati to go to college, or where did you go after that?
I actually went to Eastern Kentucky University, which is about 2 hours south in Richmond, Kentucky, and went to college there and got a degree in a BFA in theater and piano minor.
Okay. And were there a lot of opportunities for you to be able to perform at that time?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a really small, regional college. So it wasn't like a big conservatory program. I didn't really know any better about, where to go to school or what that, at that time, I just thought, I want to do theater. And so I went to this college, but it happened to have some really great teachers. who saw something in me and took me under their wing. And
tell us who some of those teachers were, because I believe in acknowledging them, getting their names out there. Thank
you. There's a teacher named Jim Morton who he just retired a few years ago. He as far as straight theater, he was the first person that really cultivated my acting chops, I would say. And for anyone out there who doesn't know, straight theater means it's not musical comedy. Not musical theater.
Okay, yes.
Exactly, yes. And then Homer Tracy is another name, and he unfortunately passed away in 2012, but he was pivotal in my life. He was absolutely probably my second big mentor. And I remember I auditioned I was a freshman in college, and you had to go to some open call there. And I didn't get it, but I remember I sang, I don't know how to, what is that? Jesus Christ Superstar. I don't know how to love it. And it was that, and also that environment where you went in and everyone was, the people, other people were sitting in the house listening to you as well, other people who were auditioning. And I just remember I started singing, and Homer later said that he was like, oh dear God, oh my, like we have something here. He didn't book me in the show because they usually typically didn't book freshmen, but I worked sound and I learned how to splice, I learned how to do backstage things there.
Anyone who's listening who wants a career in this, that's the way to do it.
I learned everything. I learned how to build, make, props. I learned about makeup. I learned about costumes. I learned how to pay my really good friend to build the flat in the scene for me because I just didn't have time. I'm an actress. I don't have time to build that flat. Yeah.
And did you continue to pursue work locally, or when did the decision happen for you to, I assume, come to New York?
Yeah.
There's a crossroads in a entertainer or performer's life where they decide on either LA or New York. Obviously, you did a lot of live theater, so I'm assuming that's why you chose New York.
Yeah, there was never really an option otherwise. I knew probably the first time I ever saw a postcard of New York City, I just thought, I'm going to live there. I'm going to do that. All through high school, I was listening to every cast album I could get my hands on. I was I was just like a sponge. I was just trying to educate myself in any way possible.
And had you ever been to New York before you moved here?
No. Oh, yes. I did. The first plane trip I took, I decided I was going to quit after my freshman year of college. I said, I'm quitting. I'm going to go. I'm going to be a huge star. I'm going to be right away. I was
overnight
18, and I got on a plane for the first time for myself and came here, and that lasted for the summer. But anyway, so yeah,
I want to go there.
That's it. Yes.
When you came to New York, I mean, same thing with me. I had never been on a plane. 15 years old, I flew to New York. So you get to New York. Did you know anyone in New York?
I knew one other girl who had come at the same time I did, and I can't remember how we found out about it. Was a woman's boarding house in the West Village, and I don't know if it's still there or not. It was called the Catherine House. So you got 2 meals a day, and you had a little teeny tiny room, and so I didn't know what I was doing. I remember I can to this day conjure up the smells of New York. And I remember going to a deli. I didn't know any better. I went to a deli and I thought, for whatever the price was, oh my gosh, $4.49. That's amazing. On those the salad bars and all, I thought, oh my God. Cause I thought, like, from Ohio, it's all you can eat. You just put food in there and it's $4.49. It was by the pound, and I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about the city. So in my little teeny tiny room at the Catherine House, I would hear this woman warm up. And finally one day I got the nerve and I just knocked on her door. Zelta Stanley was her name.
Oh, wow.
And I knocked on the door and I said, do you take voice lessons? Do you know a voice teacher? Yada, yada. Oh yeah, that's another story. Anyway, so she said, oh yes, I take from the most fantastic voice teacher, but he doesn't take any new students. He would never take you. And I said, oh, well, maybe I could have his number and I don't know anybody. And I thought maybe he could give me another name. So I called Donald Johnston and he said, I'm not taking new students, but why don't you come here and sing for me? And I'll tell you who I think you should study with. But
Wow.
that was his sort of ploy for auditioning you. I didn't know that. And he said, it's amazing. I have an opening. So I ended up studying with him from when I was 18 until he passed away all those years. And he was an extraordinary teacher, and I owe him everything. And he actually said, you need to go back and finish college.
And you did.
I did. I at the end of that summer, he said, just finish your education, get some more training under you, especially your acting training. It's expensive here. Go and get some skills and then come back, which I did.
Well, what did you do that summer for a survival job?
I waited tables for the first time. I lied and waited tables at a French restaurant. Oh, I was horrible. And but again,
they were Ron Bomer's story.
No,
he was fired in front of his customers.
No.
Yes. So.
Yeah, I mean, you just never know. I took a chance and I waited tables and I was really bad. But again, it was a little family there and they just kind of protected me a little bit. And I also worked at the Baskin Robbins that was on 6th Avenue and I dipped ice cream.
Now, did you audition or anything that first summer that you were in New York?
I think I went to like one audition and it scared the living daylights out of me. And I think at that point I was like, oh, you so don't know what you're doing. This is not, you're not Peggy Sawyer.
What was it that scared you about it?
I think I just felt intimidated. Like I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have enough information. I didn't want to, and I think somebody, I don't even know who it was, but somebody said to me, there's a casting person in there. And I said, what? Well, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what an agent was. And I just thought, and I want to say that I auditioned, I can't remember I want to say there was like a 3-penny opera or something. I went to an open call and they kept me. And I thought, and it went no further, but I was so not in my own skin. I was too green. I didn't know what I was doing.
So how many months were you in New York that first time before you decided to leave?
I think it was like 4 months. 4 or 5 months.
When you made the decision that I'm going to go back to college, I'm going to do exactly what I've been asked to do, did you feel that you were leaving New York with a little bit of knowledge of what was happening, or did you leave here thinking, and lack of a better word, as a failure?
Not at all. I thought, you know what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now go get the things you need to get. I had a glimmer of what it was that I needed, and I needed some more experience. So I did get that in summers. I booked some jobs in the summers and in between, sophomore and junior year, between junior and senior year, and then and so then when I was finished with college during that spring, you're all auditioning for there's like ERDAs and those other big huge auditions. So you go and audition for a bunch of different things. Straw hats, all those things. Yeah. And I did that. But I also auditioned for Opryland. So I ended up booking Opryland the summer after I finished college.
Did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy working at Opryland?
Oh my gosh, that was ridiculous. And to this day, I have some of my dearest friends are still my dear friends. And like in my cast, it was John Barrowman and David Elder and
wow.
I mean, it was crazy. Tim Schultheis and then in the other cast because they had 2 different casts, and I think Kristen Chenoweth did my show. Actually, no, she did the show the year after me. Christiane Knoll was on the boat. I mean, it was just they had 13 live shows and they were all double cast. So it was this unbelievable group of people who then ultimately moved to New York. And so while I was in Nashville, I auditioned for Tokyo Disney and I ended up working at Tokyo Disney. And then I left Disney, came back and ended up auditioning for a theater company, a brand new theater company. They were just started in Cincinnati called the Ensemble Theater of Cincinnati, which is now a beautiful theater company. But I was in the first company of actors, and I got my equity card.
Great. What was the show you got your equity card with?
It was a show by Charles Liepart. They did all new plays, and it was called, oh crap. My God, that's horrible.
It'll come back. I know.
Sleepers.
I'm sorry?
Deep Sleepers.
Okay.
That's the name of the play. Mm-hmm.
And when did you make the ultimate decision to come back to New York? And by this time, do you feel I'm a seasoned professional, I know what I'm doing?
I felt like I had a better idea, and I had a lot bigger network of people I knew, and everybody I knew, that was the mantra. I'm going to New York. I'm going to New York. I'm going to New York. And so it was just the place to go for me. And so it was right after, once I had my card in my hand and I finished the season there, I was gone. I left.
Now, for some people, getting the equity card opens many doors for them. Mm-hmm. For others, it's a hindrance because the opportunities beyond what you're able to do as far as union professional theater is concerned, was it a blessing or a curse for you at the moment that you got it?
I never, ever felt it was a curse. It always felt like a blessing to me. I think I was just so stupid that I didn't know better. I really didn't. The people who had mentored me said that was what you needed to get. You needed to be legitimized as far as they were concerned by having a union card. And that would also open doors. You wouldn't, at the time you still had to wait in line. It wasn't like—
It sounds like a silly question, but do you still have your first equity card?
I don't think I do. Do you?
I do. I saved it. 100 years ago, I still saved it. That card, was the holy grail for me. Getting that card was a sense that I had arrived. And even when there are those, lean periods of time where I'm not performing or anything, the fact, even paying my dues, that I belong to Actors Equity is such a big deal for me.
Yeah, I agree. I've always felt very proud of that, and really proud for what the union does for us. And I never really felt that it was a negative. But it was also a different time. I mean, some students that I have now, I understand why you might want to wait a while too. I get it. But back then, for me, it wasn't.
So when you came back to New York, did you go back to the same place that you had lived in before?
No. By that time, I was dating somebody, and he was just finishing his graduate work at Yale. And I said, I'm going to New York. And he said, well, then I am too. And then we ended up getting an apartment together and living together. And so.
What was your first apartment in New York? Your first full apartment?
It was on the east side. It was, I think it was 89th and York. Yeah, it was way over there. And it was tiny. And I remember he sent me, because he went to New York first, and he sent me a little diagram with the floor plan. Mm-hmm. And then he cut out he was a technical theater guy, so he cut out a little bed and a little this and that. And I kept thinking, he's got those dimensions wrong. Really? And it was so tiny. But I was there. I was there.
And did you have any other survival jobs?
Yeah, I had so many survival jobs. Oh my gosh. I first out of the gate thought I'll wait tables, and that lasted for about a nanosecond because I just couldn't stand it, because I ended up I waited tables through college, and I just thought, oh my God, I can't do this. And somebody told me about temping. I didn't know. Well, I think maybe I had temped a little bit in Cincinnati before I got the ensemble theater job. Yeah, I did. So I thought, oh, I'll get a temp agency. So I ended up kind of going that route and got a job with Town and Country magazine. It was the first job, and they were really nice to me. And then I think the biggest, the longest lasting temp job that I had was for NBC in their business division. And I knew nothing about what they do, but they were just the again, just nice people. I always had very good luck with people being kind to me. And I never lied. I said, I don't want to make this as a career. I am an actress and I want to do this for my life. I'm also really good at, that's what's great. Actors, when they get in those temp jobs, are so fast and they're reliable. So then they want to keep you because you're task oriented. That's who we are. And
that was my life in the 70s and 80s. That's I did it all. Yeah.
Right. They know they've got a little gem and then they want to keep you.
How long were you in New York before? Well, let's back up for a moment. How did you begin to acclimate yourself as an actress in New York with auditions and classes and all that it takes to get started?
Gosh, that's a good question. Backstage, I just remember that, my group of friends, I remember cutting out the the audition appointments and putting them in a date book.
Yes.
Having to remember and write down and how to juggle work with all of that. I also had the anchor of my voice lessons because Donald was still, he was in my life, a huge part of my life. And it was every Tuesday and Thursday. I took lessons twice a week. And so that really grounded me. It gave me a sense of,
I'm sure he was also when Backstage came out. So I'm sure that your week came as a result of that happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Backstage, I think, and then just word of mouth too. There wasn't internet. There wasn't any of that. You found things out you had to really go and dig for things. And it was all about networking with your friends and other people and learning through them and, hey, I heard they're doing this over there. And, oh, this guy teaches a really great class. If you get in that, I hear he gets you into X, Y, and Z. And so, yeah, I knew like someone said, oh, this is a great commercial class and the on-camera class. And
do you have an answering service that you got your messages from, or?
I did not. I think I was a little more than answering services, but, you had the answering machines where, you called in and you either had one of those remote things you went pee to play it back to you, or you pushed buttons and heard messages back to you.
Well, one of the things that I really think is lacking for a lot of kids coming along now is the fact that everyone's on their phones and everyone's doing that and everything.
That's true.
We didn't have that. So we were all talking with one another and getting to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
The same people, they became friends. You'd go out for a cup of coffee or something after an audition.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot has happened since you first first time that you really made the move. What are some of the things that have changed in the industry that you have totally embraced? And what are some of the things that you've resisted the most as far as change in the industry?
Say the first part again.
That you've embraced.
That I've embraced. I love that you can I do love that you can see more things online and do more. You can do a lot of research really fast online. I do enjoy that a lot. I think sometimes it is easier to get together with people because you can text and kind of keep in touch in different sort of ways. Email makes things, just technology, I guess. But then at the same time, I feel like listening has gone out the window. When I'm in a cast with people now that I'm getting older, I just noticed that all the kids, the faces are in their phones. And when I was coming up, the way that you learned was by listening. If you were in a rehearsal room, the cell phone of the day was like someone hiding the New York Times behind the music stand, if you were trying to occupy time while someone else was working. But I just remember being in a room with people, whether it was readings or something that early days of when I booked, I learned from watching other people work. Mm-hmm. And that was the best education ever. And especially the senior people that I would watch in the room. I don't mean senior citizens. I just mean people that had come before me. Seasoned. I just remember, I remember Victor Garber. I was in a reading and I just remember Victor Garber, and I could have watched him all day long. One
of my favorites. Yes.
Yeah. And I was in a room with David Loud and, or was it? Yeah, it was David Loud, and it was a Candor Net piece, and it was Scott Ellis directing. And Scott Ellis he took a chance on me. He gave me like my first break in the city, and I would pinch myself. It was Karen Ziemba, and it was Victor Garber, and I just couldn't believe that I was sitting in the room. And God forbid I would ever, fast forward, if that were today, I certainly would not put my nose in a phone. Mm-hmm. And I've been in casts before where
everyone's listening to this. I'm with you.
I mean, it sounds so old-fashioned, but you have to be aware. You have to be ready and aware. And not only viewing shows, going to see shows, you have to go see shows, but you have to watch your fellow actors work so that you can make a decision about your approach to something, or maybe you'll add something into your approach or something you never thought of. And it's like, that's where the magic happens to me, is in rehearsal. So I love watching other people work. But I think it's sad to me, because when I'm in rehearsals for a show and I'll look around the room and I'll see the kids just sitting on their phones, and I think, really?
I agree.
Gosh.
I agree. So how long were you in New York before you did get your first big break?
I got an agent. I remember I was going to an open call and somebody said, well, just have your agent. I was getting callbacks. I remember Tara Rubin was with Johnson and Liff at the time, and she was not in, I think she was an assistant there. Mm-hmm. And I just remember meeting her, and she was so kind and lovely. And I just always felt that she saw me. Mm-hmm. But there was somebody in line that said, have your agent. And I said, what's an agent? And I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he ended up giving my picture to my first agent, which was amazing. And with that, I ended up booking, it was a live industrial for Bristol Myers Squibb, and it was no singing at all. It was on camera. It was in San Francisco, and a young director named Scott Ellis was directing it.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up in San Francisco with him for 2 weeks, and we just, like, to this day, I love him so much. And
absolutely.
And he, so and it was this kind of dry comedy too. And he was one of the first people that actually saw me for who I was, not just like a lot of people will mistake that I'm blonde, kind of wholesome, and especially even more so when I was young. But my sense of humor was always super dry, but I didn't always feel comfortable showing that until I got to know somebody. So it was awesome because he got to know me right away, and he got to see like the ballsy Sally. So we flew home, and then he gave me a call, and he said, you said you sing, right? Because I told him I'm a really good singer. Mm-hmm. And I said, I do. And he said, well, I'm doing a thing, and I don't know if you're available, but he sort of expressed anything to me. And then if you could sing backup for Liza Minnelli. And it's this thing, and it's at Carnegie Hall, and I don't know how much pay there's going to be, and what was the Sondheim tribute at Carnegie Hall?
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I literally walked in, and I was like, oh my dear God. And he was like, oh, and this is our choreographer, Susan Stroman, and this is our musical director, Paul Gimignani. I didn't know them.
You had hit pay dirt.
I didn't even know what I was doing. I was like, oh, I just thought Liza Minnelli. And then it ended up that I was a part of this. And then I met Gimignani, and I worked together for years, and I love him. And Scott I did Tom Sawyer with Scott and other shows. And so that was really like a big break for me. I
want to ask you, how much of your career has been proactive, of you actually going after things? And how much of your career has been because of the people and circumstances along the way?
Well, I didn't ever sort of rest on the laurels of like someone else is going to take care of it for me. I worked really, really, really hard always, up at 5 a.m. at open calls and juggling day jobs and all of that. But also I knew, and it wasn't something that someone told me it's about relationships. Like, it's just who I am, and I like people. And I think I've now discovered that people like to work with people they like to work with. They like to work with good people. And so you get to know someone and they want to be around you. I would want to be around them. I mean, it's rare that I'm included in a group of people who like say that I say I don't like a director. Usually they're not going to hire me again because we don't groove, right? It's an energy thing. So I think I think the acknowledgement of that and knowing that is key, and you have to be authentic. I just think you have to be authentic. And I think I had a good balance of that.
And your first Broadway show, was that Assassins?
No, I did the King David, which was like, the concert version of the new Alan Menken and Tim Rice musical. That was so fun. Oh my gosh, it was so fun. What a great, unbelievable cast.
Back to that moment when you get the call that you're going to be doing your first Broadway show.
I was sitting at NBC at my desk and I got the call and I literally was like, in this office, and then, celebrated with my friends, and it was just so, you just feel like you really made it. And then Tom Sawyer, was after that, and I had been a part of, I think, like one of the first readings. I was a part of that show for years, and then it just went, I just kept being asked to, continue with it. And then we ended up in New Haven, and then we ended up on Broadway. And that was just such a sad thing because it was such a beautiful show that I think ended up in the wrong theater. We played for, I think, only a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and then we closed. There's not even a cast recording of it, but it was a beautiful, beautiful show, gorgeous music. And it was sad that it ended. And then Assassins was after that. Mm-hmm.
And what is your routine when you're in a long running show?
I get very protective about my time. And I'm always thinking, I just have to be careful about, sleep. And I know that the job is that's the focus. I need to be able to show up for that. I also have to have a balance in my life. But doing 8 shows a week, I would just try to always be as vocally healthy as possible and just try to, not stay out late and, be in loud bars. If you're going to drink, be someplace quiet.
I'm looking at your resume. There's so many theaters that you've done and tours and everything. Do you like being on the road? Do you like being out of New York? Or have you become a true New Yorker and this is it?
I like being out of town, but not for that long. I do like, a good, healthy regional run, like if I've done Goodspeed, that's 4 months, but you also are close enough to the city, you can get back. And
one of my favorite theaters.
Yeah. And Spelling Bee was great. I'm not a real fan of traveling every week. And, I shouldn't say that on the air. Like I'm it depends on the show, but,
yes.
But that was the first time I had toured because I didn't ever really, I didn't understand that lifestyle. And I was always, someone told me somewhere, if you go out of town, they're going to forget you, so, but Spelling Bee was right. It was the right time. And Bill Finn had asked me to do it. I went and replaced, one of my best friends was doing it on the road, Jennifer Smart. And there was this whole thing that was happening. They were doing a shuffling the deck. And I literally was asked on a Friday, and then the following a week after that, 2 weeks after that, I was playing the role. So it was really fast, great group of people to be on the road with, and it was just the right time in my life that I thought, okay, I can handle this. And it was a production contract tour, so it was civilized, the money was good, all those things. So but yeah, I've never done a tour where you like sit down for a month at a place or something like Ron did with Book of Mormon. Like that seems really cool to me because you can actually get acclimated to the city.
Now, I want to go back for a moment to these great mentors that you had in Cincinnati and Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Did any of them get a chance to see you on Broadway or to see your work in New York?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Both. Mr. Kick in high school did not see me in New York, but he saw me several times in Cincinnati. And I remember the last time I think he saw me before he passed away, he saw me I was doing Marry Me a Little at Cincinnati Playhouse, that two-hander. And that was really great. I was very grateful that he got to see it. And all my friends, that was really fun to be in my hometown to do that. But Donald saw me do many things in New York. And I actually sang in the pit for New York City Ballet. I was a summer ballet soloist. And he just loved that. I mean, just thought that was such a cool thing. And he saw me do solo shows on Broadway. And then Homer, my mentor from college, saw me he was at the opening night of Tom Sawyer. He saw me do Assassins a couple times. And he traveled everywhere. He would just travel to see me in anything. Yeah.
Now, I do want to take a moment to talk about Rebecca Luker. Mm-hmm. And this wonderful concert you did together, and now the CD. So thank God that we have that. How did you and Rebecca originally meet and come to begin to work with each other?
We met in 2004 doing a reading called, that was written by Jenny Gearing and Beth Blatt, called The Mistress Cycle. And I think Joe Clarko directed. And it was Rebecca, Julia Murney, Mary Bond Davis, and Stephanie Bast, and myself. And we met, and we always laugh. I want to say it was the first day that we were introduced that I think I said, I'm just going to go to the bathroom. She said, oh, I'll go with you. And so we
did share any of her dirty jokes with you?
Oh God, yes. Lord, everything. But we, sat in stalls next to each other and peed in tandem. And she started talking to me immediately. And I thought, oh God, this girl is like, right. She's my cup of tea. She's just real. She's exactly how I feel about me. And there was no pretense. And she was.
That's who she was.
It was. Yeah.
If you got lucky enough to know her. When was the last time that you saw her?
I saw her the Sunday before she passed away, that Wednesday morning. Yeah. I was very grateful. I was with her all the time, and through all of it, through her diagnosis, through all of it, and that we were lucky enough that she knew that we were, the last month she was alive, we were working on the album. We were listening to edits all the time and putting together the booklet and writing our thank yous. And so we just lived 7 blocks from each other. So I literally wore a path between our 2 apartments and would show up. And it was always so funny. There were many people that were beautiful angels that were helping in her care for many months, and a revolving door of just gorgeous people. And I would walk in and there would be somebody new saying, oh, your album is so good. And Becca would say, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't be playing it, but I can't. And she was so proud of it. And I'm like, it's fine. She's like, I know it's not released. Don't tell anybody I played it for you, but it's not being released. So, so she was so proud of it and so happy. And we were really looking forward. We didn't know it was her final days. I mean, it was sudden. And so, I'm just grateful that there was, there was no words.
No.
There was nothing left unsaid.
Made me cry.
There was nothing left unsaid, and I feel really grateful that I was with her through every bit of it. I feel like what an honor, and we were always there for each other in so many aspects of our lives, and so that's like rare, and I'm super grateful for it.
And now we have the album, so thank you for that. But I do want to ask, whose idea was it to do the show?
I got a call from Jennifer Tepper. Do you
Oh,
know
yeah.
at 54 Below?
Yeah.
And they were developing. She was putting together a duo series, and she called me and said, "Would you be interested in being a part of it?" And I said, "Yeah, that sounds cool." And the first person I thought, because Becca and I always said I'd guested in concerts of hers, and she had been in mine, and we just always said, you know, we need to do a show together. But in our heads, we were thinking like a Broadway show together.
And your voices blend so well.
Oh, it's crazy. We just love singing together, and our artistic approach is remarkably similar. And so I called her and I said, "Hey, I just got a call about this duo show," and she was like, "Yes." And that was it. And we started putting it together so quickly. It didn't waste a moment, and it was so much fun to create that show together.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What's next for you? What is on the horizon? I mean, we're in a place right now where it's difficult to really plan in advance, but you are creating. So what's next for you?
Crazy. During the pandemic, I actually booked a job with Williamstown when Williamstown Theater Festival decided to turn their entire season into Audible. They struck up a deal with Audible, and so they made their entire season into like radio shows. So
I love that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
so they they are producing the first ever musical that was created for Audible during this pandemic. So I ended up booking it via Zoom, like right at the kind of, I think my callback was like in April sometime. And it's this gorgeous piece so we taped it in November, and it's going to be released in February. And I've been doing, some bits of recordings and doing, I'm doing a Merkin Hall K Swift. We're taping a K Swift concert a week from Friday. That'll be really fun with Clea Blackhurst and me and Nikki and Jeff Creedy. And Georgia Stitt is musical directing. So that's in another week. I'm also just starting on a solo album that I'm really looking forward to getting out there. It's been kind of it's been on the back burner for a long time. And just through this whole experience, it's really began to crystallize, and so I'm finally starting to work on that. And then I'm just hoofing it around like whoever, my agents are getting me in for whatever television is picking up. And then hopefully Trevor will pick up right where we left off, because our set is hanging in the theater waiting for us to come back.
Well, when you come back, will you come back here?
You know it. Now you're like my BF. I mean, now you're like.
Well, I can't believe this, but we're at the end of our show.
You're kidding.
No,
oh my God, that's
we're at the show, and I've absolutely. This has been a real thrill for me. You are truly the real thing. So thank you, and thanks for sharing a little bit of Rebecca with us today. I want to thank everybody for being here. I hope you all had a good time. And if you don't mind, please go to my website, which is richardskipper.com. Sign my guest book with your thoughts about the show that helped boost me in other markets. I also want to let everyone know that I've got a very special show that I'm doing tomorrow afternoon, celebrating the history of the Rehearsal Club with Gail Patron and Cynthia Darlow. If any of you have seen the movie Stage Door, based on the Rehearsal Club, it's where Carol Burnett stayed when she first came to New York, Blythe Danner, and so many others. Stories very much like your first experiences in New York. So we're going to be talking about that and their future and where they hope to go. I also, how can we get your CD, number one?
You can find it digitally on iTunes and Spotify, any of the places you can download. Only on iTunes can you get the booklet, the booklet that comes with it, or you can go to now the physical CDs you can get on Amazon.com or at PS Classics, and I would encourage that because it's a beautiful CD, and I know it's
Do you have a preference as to where you want to send people?
I would say go to PS Classics and buy it directly from them.
Great. So this is what I want everyone to do. I always end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. So today I want you to go to your Facebook friends list, and I want you to look at the first name that pops up, and I want you to order through PS Classics, All the Girls with Sally Wilfert and Rebecca Luker. Order 2. Keep one for yourself and send it to the first friend that pops up on your friends list. And let's just keep these voices going. Excuse me. I also want to give you the final word. Anything that you want to expound upon that we talked about today that you want to add on to, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, now's your chance to say whatever that is, or just any message that you want to put out to everyone who's either watching. This will be available on YouTube, and the podcast will be available on all major platforms where you listen to your favorite podcast. So, Sally, thank you so much.
Thank you. You're a delight. I just love talking with you. Thank you so much. Yay. Any
final word?
Just keep hopeful. Stay hopeful, for goodness sake. We got to have some hope in this world. Well, tomorrow's a great day.
Yes. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.